He had to be rushed off to hospital immediately, and on the way out, I looked up in the air and I thought, you bastards, one day I'll get my own back on you. So that was really what pointed me to joining Bomber Command.
By the summer of 1940, the Second World War was nearly a year old, and Hitler was now triumphant master of Europe. The Nazis had smashed their way across the continent, overwhelming Poland, Belgium, Holland and France. Britain was now in their sights. At home, Britain's newly installed Prime Minister found himself in charge of a frightened nation. His first task was to keep up the morale of the people. We had evacuated our children, started rationing and built air raid shelters. That summer, we waited with great trepidation for the expected invasion. By September, Hitler had changed tactics from industrial targets and set his sights on the capital.
The German air power has been brought so close to our island that what we used to dread greatly has come to pass, and the hostile bombers can be escorted by their fighting aircraft.
At that time, Steve Stevens was 17 years old and found himself in the middle of it all as a volunteer air raid warden.
Some of us had formed a voluntary air raid precautions group. I went up near the Crystal Palace playing ground where they were digging a darn big hole and asked them what they were doing there. And they said, well, we're going to have air raid precautions. What's air raid precautions? Well, bombs drop, which have people on the streets called wardens. They all send in reports of damage. So I went downstairs and I thought, we're going to night bombing. I should be jolly safe down here, so I think I'll volunteer for this one.
Little did Stevie know of the true horrors that awaited him in the skies above London.
There was one poor woman lived opposite, and she started to scream just as the bomb started falling. And the next morning she was still screaming until the last bombs had fallen and she was dead. It did horrify me to see the amount of damage which had created. Smells was awful as the sewer pipes were sort of broken, the water roads were flooded, and the electricity cables down and that sort of thing. In fact, it was rather a mess.
During one of Steve's night shifts as an air raid warden, he had been informed that his parents' house had been bombed. Before going on his shift that night, he had shared a pot of tea with his elderly neighbour.
When I came home that morning, when it was just getting light, I could see the gap between my house and the one next door where it had been hit. So I walked up to the house, and this poor woman had given me a tea in the earlier night, and she was smashed against her front door, frightening. Then I went indoors, and my father had got a steel helmet, and he was staggering around and getting things organised. The beams had fallen down on top of a piano and a table. They formed a little tent underneath, which an uncle of mine who was staying with them had dived underneath. So quite a bit of the building was resting on it really. But we managed to get them out without any further trouble, except for my uncle. When he dived under the table, I suppose about a foot of his leg remained outside the table as the house fell down. And so he had to be rushed off to hospital immediately. And on the way out, I looked up in the air and I thought, you bastards, one day I'll get my own back on you. So that was really what pointed me to joining Bomber Command.
Shortly after seeing his parents' house destroyed in the London Blitz, Stevie applied for the RAF as a bomber pilot and started his training in earnest.
And then from there my training started. I went first up the North Carlisle and Kingston Airport there. I did my first training. We were tested to see, and many of us got through going solo and landing. And then I found that I was being posted to an address called All American Training, TC. I thought that was strange. I didn't join the American Air Force. So anyway, I told your training will take place in America because we bought some land out there. We've got our own landing ground. So that was it.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
Stevie had successfully completed his basic training on the single-engine Magister and landed in Halifax shortly after the bombing of Pearl Harbor on 1st of January 1942.
Off we went from Liverpool up on a troop ship to America. We went out by Canada, and then we got to Halifax in Nova Scotia. From there, up north of Canada, round the top, as it were, and then south again, eventually to California.
After a spell of months en route, Stevie began advanced training in California in the Mojave Desert, training on the Stearman biplane, before progressing and finishing the course on the North American Harvard T6, practicing aerobatics and night flying.
Full-fledged pilots of the Royal Air Force, first American trained cadets to win their wings here in Southern California. Graduation exercises for the Pride of Britain. After 20 weeks of schooling at War Eagle Field, built exclusively for training of RAF fighting flyers, the first 50 received the coveted insignia, and there'll be hundreds more. Instructors wishing them happy landings as they hop off on the first leg of their trip to the battlefront.
After successfully completing his training in America, Stevie arrived back in the UK to begin flight training on twin-engine aircraft. He was posted to RAF Spitalgate.
At the end of Grantham, there was a large field called Spitalgate. It was a big, dark field, not much accommodation there, some tents. We had Oxfords and Ensigns there, and so we started flying twin-engine aircraft, which was a rather different technique. In the next station, we had a place called Cottesmore, and there we converted onto Wellingtons, a twin engine, and our early wartime bomber. It's quite a difficult airplane to learn how to fly. Or not too bad by day. It was, again, quite a difficult aircraft to get used to at night. And to avoid any accidents, the pilot had to make up his mind at 600 feet whether he was going to land or not. And that's quite a difficult thing to do when you're being to learn this. 600 feet is after all quite high, but maybe it's too low for some airfield. So if you do make a mistake, you can't get off again, because the Wellingtons were all that high powered, and so we did have several night flying accidents and trying to teach people how to fly at night. But we had one Australian bloke who, he described it, they were flying over Wales, and he said suddenly there was a crunch, and the aircraft started going more slowly, so it stopped. And they'd actually crashed the aircraft into the side of the hill as they were climbing, and just squashed in the air like that. And the poor old rear gunner, he was hanging out of the back, and of course just blankness underneath. And he thought they were right on top of a mountain with the end of the aircraft poking out, and he didn't dare move very much because he jumped about, his head started moving. And when daylight came and he did jump, he couldn't be too quick getting out of the aircraft. And he actually fell about 5 or 6 feet, that was all. Then after that really came in my case, the Lancaster.
Britain's biggest and most deadly bombing planes, the Lancasters, are now in large-scale production. In the many factories of the Avro Group, in the factories of other British aircraft manufacturers at home and overseas, many thousands of men and women toil night and day to produce these gigantic warplanes for Bomber Command.
By 1943, casualties within Bomber Command were severe, with death rates at 44%. Production of the Avro Lancaster was in full swing. By the end of the war, a total of 7,377 Lancasters would be built, with a total loss of 55,573 men. Every one of them a volunteer. Life expectancy was 4 weeks, and Stevie was about to join them at just 22 years of age.
The maiden voyage has begun. The approval test, after everything has been fitted, including guns, is underway.
During the spring of 1943, Stevie was posted to his first operational squadron at RAF Scampton.
And then later on, you were told what the target was. And you had a general briefing for that with the navigators and pilots and the rest of the aircrew. They'd all get together for a general briefing, and then you have a map on the board which would show you just where you were going, or they hoped you'd go, and the target and the time back, and that was it. So that was always a very tense time. I often thought that the easiest way of finding out how dangerous the target was would be to have somebody outside the luge, because once people, if you said Berlin or something like that, you had to be immediate dash for the luge, and the smell rising was pretty obviously identified. If it's a shorter outfit or like an easier one, they didn't get the same smell.
After a mere 3 weeks of training on the aircraft he was to take to war, Stevie's first sortie was a trip deep into enemy territory, a bombing run on the 12th of May to the industrial city of Duisburg, being second pilot to his flight commander, Squadron Leader Smith.
And so I did my first flight with the Squadron Leader Smith, very competent chap, and he said, right, I'll just show you what the score is here, Stevens. And off we went to do our first Battle of the Ruhr. And this is a place called Duisburg. So off we went. And then we could see where the bombs had begun to drop. And it was just a blaze. I mean, up to 15,000 feet. It looked impossible to go through it. And he said, don't bother about the size of the blaze. He said, we should be almost, I think. Of course, as it got closer and closer with searchlights, the old aircraft being shot down, and then once or twice I saw some other aircraft go by. I wasn't sure whether they were ours or theirs. And then, of course, we went over the top of the flames, and of course you get effect from the heat rising, and so you're bumped about a bit. But the bomb area in front kept absolutely steady, and Smith held on to things steadily. It irrespective of what was happening. So we went through this hell, which was, to me, I thought, we can't survive going through that, like putting your face in the fire or something. But we did. And when we came up the other side, we got home without too much trouble, had a landing, and that was it. And he said, well, that's your first flight. He said, no, after this you'll be on your own. And so I was.
The industrial Ruhr district produced 80% of Germany's coal supplies and 75% of her steel. This network of war industries was clustered in and around Germany's major cities. German defences were concentrated around these centres, creating a barrier of flak, high explosives and night fighters, guided by searchlights and radar. With no front yet in Europe, Britain's offensive lies solely with the men of Bomber Command. It was their job, night after night, to destroy and dislocate the German military, industrial and economic system.
Watch your height. I'm watching everything. Okay.
There's quite a fight getting across, because of course, when you think about it, you start from here, you've got like 600 miles to go to Berlin, and that's quite a lot. And of course, the Germans have got time because they know you're coming, because they've got radar, which direction you're coming in, where you're coming from, approximate height of flight. They've got all that brief before they take off from near Berlin. Then they can generally do their fighting. You had to be on the lookout all the time. And the other thing was that you had to try not to get to a position where the guns of the attacking aircraft, the enemies, would be able to get underneath and then fly upwards into your petrol tank, your crew, all the vulnerable bits. And apart from, of course, the damage done by flak. And so, in other words, it didn't pay, I thought anyway, to fly in a straight line, always kept going. And that wasn't much fun for the mid-upper gunner, who was always being swung one way and then the other. But it was probably better at that position and his discomfort, rather than not having a look underneath. This constant looking for enemy aircraft was quite stressful, so you had to keep that watch going all the time, and it did pay off.
After a raid on the German city of Essen, Stevie was inspired to record his experience, and what follows is a one-of-a-kind recording of what a typical bombing mission entailed.
This is the story of one Lancaster bomber taking part in one raid on the 25th of July 1943. Scampton Airfield is just north of Lincoln, and on this particular day, aircraft of A, B and C flights of number 57 Squadron were dispersed over the airfield. During the day, they have been thoroughly tested. Guns, ammunition, bomb sights, compasses, engines, wirelesses, oxygen supplies, petrol and oil have all been carefully inspected. At the point where we turn onto the runway, we stop. A green light flashes from the caravan, showing that I am the next to take off. We do not use the wireless to talk to the controller, or the Germans would hear us. Well, I suppose the Germans wouldn't literally hear us, but a number of transmissions would give them a warning that something was happening on our side of the channel, and we want to take the Germans by surprise if we possibly can.
And then I took a microphone with me and put on a tape. Of course, these were very, very rare things, so we tried this one because we thought it might be useful for recruiting the ATC.
Usually we take little action about flak, unless we can hear it crack or smell it. We have to get to a target on time, and we don't want to dart about all over the sky unless there is real danger. A single searchlight picks up an aircraft on our starboard side. Within a second or two, a huge number of searchlights illuminate this aircraft, and gunfire flashes around it as it twists and turns in an effort to escape. We know that every gun in the area is directed at this aircraft. At first it seems that it may escape, but suddenly there is a brilliant flash, a red glow, and a ball of smoke, and we know that at least 7 of our men have been blown to pieces. As the target appears, he gives me instructions. Left, left, steady, 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 bomb doors. I move a lever and say, bomb doors open, and I concentrate on holding the aircraft level and exactly on course. This is a most trying time. If a fighter comes in, we cannot take avoiding action now. An explosion rocks us. An aircraft nearby is blown up. Right, 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 steady, 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 says the bomb aimer, and I put every mental and physical effort into carrying out his orders. Suddenly, I feel the aircraft lift and know our bombs are dropping. Then comes the voice of the bomb aimer. Bomb's gone. Suddenly, we're galvanized again. A microphone clicks. Hail the skipper, fighter, fighter, port quarter down, range 600, port, go! I push on the rudder, turn the ailerons, put the nose down, open the throttle, and transmit to the gunner, diving port. I dive for the dark part of the sky. And as I'm going down port, the gunners aim for the upper starboard side of the fighter. The fighter blasts a frightening burst of cannon and machine gun fire, some of which I can feel hitting my aircraft. A stream of red and yellow fire passes me, and I seem to be in the middle of it.
And I saw the bloke who was attacking me from my side window turned around towards him. I thought, right, well, if I've got to go, you're going with me. And so I dived in towards him. I could see him jumping out of the way. He disappeared in the distance.
On a separate trip to Cologne, Stevie was hit by flak over the target moments after dropping his bombs. All electrical equipment was immediately cut off, including the heated seats of the gunners and the intercom.
I had some trouble going on at the front, so I sent the wireless operator forward to see what the trouble was, and he suddenly let out a yelp and said, "Bugger me!" And what had happened was he's walking back, and of course pitch darkness, and we'd been hit by something or other, and he put his foot through the hole in the aircraft. Once his foot had got through the hole, of course, the slipstream bent it backwards and he couldn't straighten it up again. So he had to send a couple more blokes to get his leg out, and he got frostbite. But a few weeks later he came out of hospital. He volunteered for my crew again, which was a brave thing of him to do.
Just before converting onto Lancasters, Stevie was flying its predecessor, the Manchester, and once found himself running low on fuel during a training mission.
But Manchester, I was flying one of these just once or twice, and I had to stop. I was running out of fuel, so I called up whatever airfield it was, Wigsley I think it was called, and I got permission to land, so I went in and landed. And when I went up to flying control while my aircraft was being refueled, I saw a lot of people in flying control. They don't usually have that number. I saw that the reason for that was this pretty wife who was doing a telephoning as the aircraft. So I thought I can understand why this place is crowded with a nice sounding voice like that. And I thought that's jolly nice. I never had a woman operator before. I hadn't, not either in America or England. And this time I couldn't make a date because there were too many people there. I had to get on anyway. And about 6 weeks later, when I was coming back from a trip over Germany, I heard this voice again. I thought, my gosh, I recognised that voice. When I went out to flying control, she had been posted to Scampton, which was the airport I came from.
After plucking up the courage to ask Maureen on a date, they were soon courting in between her duties as a radio operator and Stevie's bombing missions over Germany.
I said, after we'd been courting for a while, she said, well, look, let's put it this way. If you're alive in 3 months' time, we'll think about it seriously, but otherwise we won't bother. The situation was as dangerous as that. And that's what we did. So when I finished my tour, we got married and lived till a couple of years ago, so it wasn't bad really. The best first memory I had was when I was converting onto Lancasters, and I took my flight engineer and the rest of the crew, and we started somewhere around the beginning of 7, and went right down into Cornwall and back again. And it was a lovely day, and I flew the aircraft as high as I could get at that time, about 20,000 feet. And then we could see both, we could actually see both coasts, the north and the south coast of Cornwall. And it was really glorious. And that was the time I really enjoyed it most, I think, realising just what we were doing and just not letting the Germans put their dirty great boots all over it. I'm very lucky to survive, I think. Certainly lucky to be my age.